Hello. Today we're going to take a look and practice with the example that you saw in your book. And that example uses Department of Sanitation New York data to compare trash tonnage collection on a specific month in each borough. In the book, it compares September 2011. In our data set, we're going to update that because we have a much more updated data set than when this exercise was first written. So if we go to the Open Data cityofnewyork.us site, we can dive right into the data and browse the data catalog. And from there, we can actually just search. We want the Department of Sanitation New York, and we want monthly tonnage data. It already shows up. So we can search that. And here we go. You'll see it's highlighted because I've already used this before. Okay, so we can go to the open data, and here we can click export. We want to export that data, so we can download this for offline use in other applications. We can just download it as a CSV file or a CSV for Excel. Either one for us will work. So we can let's try downloading CSV for Excel. We'll see that we have a CSV file downloading here. We can even open this. We can download it as a CSV if we prefer as well. Either one will work. Now we go to Tableau. And in Tableau, we can import the file straight away. And so that's one of those handy features in Tableau. So now we go here and we can connect to a file. So there's Excel or a text file. Text file would include a CSV file. So let's try this one. Notice the one for Excel was actually a bigger file. So here we actually get the listing of our data. And we get to see that the columns are here, right? And we can explore this in greater depth. Okay, so we see that. This is worksheet 1. This is where our material's at. Here we go. We click on sheet 1. We see this was our data source. Now we're on sheet 1. And in sheet 1, we can see how Tableau has interpreted our data sources. So a borough is text. The borough ID is a number. Month and these measure names are text. That works. And then it's imported those as dimensions. And these are measures. And so if we remember back to the difference between dimensions and measures in Tableau, right? So remember back. The dimensions are fields that can be used to describe data records, like a borough or a month, right? Measures are value fields, and measures contain records that can be aggregated. So you can average them, you can add them together to arrive at some final result. And so in this case, what we want to do in our exercise is start getting used to how Tableau works and answering that key question, comparing collection tonnages across the boroughs. So Tableau also will give you suggestions to help you make your visualization. And it's very easy. So if you were to click on, say, borough, because we want to find a comparison across boroughs, and what we're looking for are refuse tons collected. So if we were to click on borough, and then also hold Control and click on refuse tons collected, or if you're using a Mac, you'll use the special character, the command. Right? Then if I go up here to click Show Me, the Show Me wizard will start to show me some suggested charts or visualizations I could use to make those comparisons. And so it'll even tell you what you need for those visualizations. And so it's intuitive. It will help you get an idea as to what kinds of visualizations you can use. And so it also will help you make your analysis much faster. And those suggestions are based on best practices and coding effectiveness that we talked about. So we have a lot of options. So before we pick one, let's think about the different ways we could visualize the comparison of refuse tons collected across each borough in a particular month, and which options we might select. And so there's 11 different ways that your book shows you, and there are some suggestions here. But we could try horizontal bars, right? We could try vertical bars. Those are options. We could try a heat map. We could try here tree maps. We could try a bubble, packed bubbles. We could try box and whiskers. There's a variety of things that we could try. The question is, what might be the best way? Which gives you the best view? And we're looking to see, and sometimes we'll see that as we practice and start working with some data sets. How about a simple horizontal bar chart? Notice what it did. It put a dimension in a row. It put our measure in a column automatically by selecting bar chart now. And so here what we see is we can see easily our refuse tons collected, right? We see the millions of tons marker here. We see the borough here. That in its coloration and everything was done automatically. So here's a very conventional like horizontal bar chart that we can do. Now we can sort the bars by length. So if we wanted to say looking at the top and sorting it by most to least, and this is overall, right? Here we go. So by clicking that button, we sort that way. So that's how that works. Now it's more organized. We can see it a lot easier. And the order from most to least. If we click on this again, we can see it the other way around, ascending. So Staten Island produced the least tonnage. Brooklyn produced the most tonnage. Okay. If you want to find out any more about how things are sorted, you can actually, you see these little bubbles here are referred to as pills, right? Notice how they kind of look like pills. And right here, what you can see, you see the stack lines here with showing you how that's arranged. Now watch if I change this again. Back to default. Back to descending. Notice how the lines change to show descending, ascending, or default. Right? And so you can always change that. So if you hover over the pill, right, and you can take a look and sort. Notice your sort will come here through borough. You can say it's nested, it's ascending, it's descending, right? And it's aggregation, and it's defaulted on the sum. Okay? And so if I wanted to just click descending, I could. Ascending again, descending. So it actually gives you quite a lot of choices. You could also filter it down manually by showing the filter. And by showing the filter here, notice how I have control. So as a user, if I'm right here in the filter, I can say, oh, I just want to examine the difference between Queens and Brooklyn. So you can select those visuals here, or I can just select all. So it gives you quite a lot of flexibility. Okay, so suppose we don't want to try this one. Suppose we want to try a different type of chart. How about the dot chart? But before we move on, another thing I forgot to mention. Right up here in the column pill, you'll notice that that's a sum. So what it has done is added or summed all of these tonnages, okay, over the entirety of this period of time. I could filter that too. I could show a filter. And go that way according to tonnage collected. That's not all that helpful though. So let's just hide this or remove this filter. We can always edit the filter or go to filter. We can look at the range of values, the at least, the at most, or special. Okay. So now let's take a look at a dot chart. So you'll notice that we've immediately went to show me, we've converted, we've gone to dot chart, and one of the things we need to do is we have this borough here, we have this one sort of column, and we want to spread these columns out a bit. So in the rows, what we have is the numbers of refuse tonnage collected. So now what we need to do is put borough back up here in columns. So we just drag it over, and here you go. You have some borough, and notice that borough was automatically put into a coloration, so we can distinguish different boroughs. Another thing we can do is I could try borough, and I could add it to the size marker, and edit sizes. I'd reset those, and it's reversed. Because the Bronx, right, produced the most trash, while Staten Island produced the least. And what we want to do is reflect that. So that's one of the ways we can filter. So here we've managed to look at that comparison. One of the things we'd also like to do is look at time. So suppose, since we're using size to differentiate boroughs, now we want to filter by month. So we want to make sure that we're only looking at a particular month. So let's pull the month into filters. Now let's say we want to look at a particular set of months in the years. Let's say we want to look at that borough comparison in January 2016. So all we do is click on that. See how I did that? I can select all, which is what we've been doing. But now I want to select none because that's easiest to go into select 1 month. I want to select January 2016. And I click OK. And we'll see that these numbers have changed. The scales have changed. We still get, it looks like a pretty similar comparison. The Bronx borough seems to produce the most tonnage of trash that gets collected. You see how we were able to do that? And so with just a few clicks, we've gotten a nice little borough filter here and here by color and just by being able to select. We can also see that the borough size reflects its relative trash, amount of trash overall. Let's pull that out And see, once again, now we just keep the dots here, reflecting where they're at. I think I like this visualization better. It just shows where each borough is at. Now, is this the best visualization? Well, I think the last chart probably made this point a little better. And for some reason, showing that chart differently made this stand out better. So let's say we want to have the values of refuse tons collected done on the horizontal and have that horizontal layout. We don't have to redo many things. We hit this button here that says switch rows and columns, and we get a horizontal chart. I think one of the things that comes across a lot better in this example here is we get to see the vast difference in gap here. Notice that we have the borough of Manhattan and the borough of the Bronx here are pretty similar. They're in the middle. We get Queens, and then the two outliers, Brooklyn over here, and on the low end, Staten Island here. I think that visualization and that space actually demonstrates the wide variety you get. Now, if I want to tighten that up, I sure can. I'm just using a big screen today, so I have a big layout here. So now we want to make this a little easier to see or to read. We can do that. So we see that we've got these lines here, right? So easiest thing to do is we can go to the Format panel. And we go to the Format panel. And we can try lines and see how we have the format. I highlighted it in my menu bar. And see, now we can pick out grid lines. So let's say we want heavier grid lines, maybe here. Notice, see the grid lines? Maybe I want them like that, and I want black grid lines. Okay, that's just not going to work. Maybe these grid lines work a little better though. Okay, so we've got those grid lines. Maybe we want to add a trend line. So suppose we want to add a trend line here. So let's add a trend line, and there we go. So if we have a trend line like that, and okay, we can have reference lines, axis rulers, drop lines, axis ticks. Maybe on the rows, we can do the same, columns the same. We apply this to the sheet. We can have borders. So you really have a lot of options. And so here, what we can do is, let's say for columns, we'd like to remove some of those marks. So we can go back to the sheet, and we go here, grid lines, columns. We want grid lines on the rows but not the columns. So here, none. And then maybe we want for here, we want for the sheet, we want a pane. And we want this, and we want, say, this, and that. There we go. There. We've had pane grid lines here. Now we want to tighten it up. So, like this. And there you go. So we have that comparison. We see the markers. And let's say we want to fill these in. Well, we can select those dots and fill. And format. Fill. Say we go here, we can fill by density. We can also just go to our circles and fill them in that way. Let's say we want them to get brought out a little bit. So in our circles, we go to color. We add our color back. We go here. We can go to size. We can adjust the size if we want. We go to here, but I suggest the color again. I think that works. There. You have a nice visualization. And a way of counting how much. So the question is, when we ask that central question, right? Which borough, count how much trash is collected in each borough across, in this case, 1 month, and that month being January, right, of 2016. It looks like we have our winner, Brooklyn. We have a clear visualization. It's easy to read. The last thing we want to do is name our sheet. And that's easy in Tableau. And that's easy in Tableau. So we clicked on the sheet and now we get to name it. So this sheet should be named Well, it would help if I actually named over the sheet name thing here. Measure of refuse collected in NYC boroughs. Month of 1/2016. Okay. Now, those stand out. These numbers seem to be okay. What we want to rename here is we probably want to name this axis title. So we double click on it and we would probably say, in this case, tons collected. measured in thousands. Okay. We already have borough app appropriately named. So here we are in Tableau, and we've named this, and we've got it. Okay, wonderful. So let's say we wanted to save this. Well, we have a variety of ways of saving it for presentation. A simple thing we can do is we can go here, right? If I want to share, I can share this. And I could upload it to a Tableau server if that's an option. I can also export or save this as another type of file. So I can save it as a Tableau workbook to work on later. And I could go to my worksheet and export it as an image. And what I'll want to do is export this image using my color legend, and I want it to look like this, and I can save it. And right now I want to save this as, I can save it as a JPEG, a Windows bitmap, a PNG. Let me save it as a PNG, and we'll just say NYC refuse. And I'll save it to here. Now if I go to my Finder and try to open it, this is the image I have. Notice Tableau provides that information automatically to help you write sum of refuse tons collected, column for each borough. Color shows details about the borough. Data is filtered on the month, which keeps 2016-01. Right? So there, we have a static image. So if we wanted to upload that or send that to someone to assist in a presentation, we have it. And so that is how you can make your first sort of how much Tableau project.